is a lot of talk about authenticity in my world anyway. I don't know if that is the case in your world. So I wanted to chat about that a little bit. So most of us are drawn to authentic and genuine people. If you think about people that you are drawn to or easily connect with, these are likely authentic people. In preparation for this video, I looked up what the word authentic means because I was curious, like, is that going to help me to define it? Because I know what it is, I know what it feels like, I know what it means in therapy work, but I was just kind of curious, like, what does it actually mean? So Webster's dictionary actually says of undisputed origin or genuine. Well, okay. Great. Does that help us define authenticity in humans? The genuine part, that helps a little bit, right? Like somebody who's really genuine knows who they are who they are no matter what group of people that they're with, right? They're the same kind of individual. Like if you think about it that way, that helps, but that doesn't really help to define why are we drawn to authenticity as humans. That part of it is still befuddling to me, and yet it is still true. If you think about that in your life, we just are drawn to genuine and authentic people. So if we're drawn to that, there's a reason for that, right? There's a reason that that is important. And I don't know that it would be, the saying, we're comfortable in their own skin. I don't know that that's necessarily what it is, but it is because they're living according to their value. They're living according to who they believe themselves to be. They don't change based on the group that they're with. They don't switch things up based off of another individual. They don't do that. There is a ton of research that indicates the ability to be authentic in one's life increases this nebulous word called happiness. If you can be genuine in your life, your happiness level goes up. I say it's a nebulous term because it's super hard to define, right? Happy for one person does not look happy for the other. It's a super confusing word to define because it just does look different for everybody. Let me try to explain it from this perspective. Maybe helping you to see what inauthentic is would help to define what authenticity is, because authenticity, again, look at the Webster dictionary, doesn't help us to define it, right? So what is inauthenticity, right? Let's say you're in a group of individuals and you happen to have an opinion that you want to share or something that you want to talk about, but you're worried about what other people's reaction is going to be to that topic. So you don't say anything because, maybe you're fearful of being vulnerable in that group. Vulnerability means saying something or acting in a certain way for fear of rejection or being emotionally raw. That is vulnerability. So if you don't show up in an emotionally vulnerable way, or you don't want to share something for fear of being rejected, it isn't that that's being inauthentic, that just means you're being guarded, right? And that's normal. We all do that all the time. However, the difference is if you're in situations where you're doing things to people please. So you're saying something because you believe that statement that's about to come out of your mouth is going to please another person. And that's something that you believe, oh, well, if I say this, I know that person's really going to like this, but it's really not something that aligns with what you like or what you value in life, or maybe even what your morals say. That then is people-pleasing behavior, and that is completely inauthentic. Let's talk about being blunt, just being who you are, saying what you want when you want, right? There is a filter, if you will, that we all have in our world. Like as a professional in your world, you maybe can't have certain language in different settings. So you might have to put a filter on in certain places so that you're not offending other people. So it's a filter. It's kind of like we talked about in other videos where you wear different hats. That doesn't mean you're being inauthentic. It just means you're being filtered in certain situations, right? Maybe you have different filters that you use, certain language that you're not going to utilize in different scenarios. That doesn't mean you're being inauthentic. It just means you're being professional. It just means, hey, this person might not appreciate that language. And it might not even be like inappropriate language. It might be, hey, I really like football and I speak in lingo of football all the time, but not everybody's going to understand that lingo, right? I kind of understand football like this much, and it's only the rest of it just completely goes over my head, right? So for somebody who only speaks in metaphors of football, I'm not going to understand that. So you're going to have to change your language depending on who you're with. That just means you're being appropriate depending on the situation that you're in. Another way that authenticity can get messy, I guess would be the way that I would explain it, is that comparison runs rampant in our world, right? Whether it's because of the media, whether it's because of the news, whether it's because of marketers. There's so many different things that are in our face all the time that we see these things that we compare our lives with. We see these things that we might think we need in content all of the time. Well, is it we want it? Is it something that we actually desire? Is it something that actually aligns with something that we truly want, or something that aligns with our actual values? Or is it just because it's the constant noise that we have in our world? Well, authentically, you kind of have to quiet that noise down a little bit to understand if these are things that you want. If you're constantly comparing yourself to others, you're not really aligning with your own authentic or genuine self, because there's comparison that's happening all of the time. So now it enters your true self with all of this external noise that's happening. You need to align with who you truly are. Not all of these extra things that are happening, not these extra comparison pieces, but align with you. See where you lie in that, not necessarily the comparison piece or all the extraneous pieces that come in our world. So hopefully that kind of helps to make a little bit of sense with how us being authentic and all the things and the noise that are in our world can kind of help cause us to be inauthentic. Brene Brown is a educator. She is a researcher and author of numerous books. You may or may not have heard of her, and she's done extensive research on the topic of authenticity. So I want to read something for you of hers that really talks about authenticity, and I want to specifically read her quote from one of her articles, because I think that it's really important for you to hear her specific words. She states, "Through my research, I have developed this. Authenticity is the daily practice of letting go who we think we are supposed to be and embracing who we truly are. Choosing authenticity means cultivating the courage to be imperfect, to set boundaries, to allow ourselves to be vulnerable, exercising the compassion that comes from knowing that we are made of strength and of struggle, nurturing the connection and belonging that comes only when we believe that we are truly enough." These are really great items that she has defined and that she has explained. And these are also really, really scary ideas, right? Like the idea of being truly vulnerable, to take off all of our armors, to truly be seen. That's incredibly vulnerable. I teach vulnerability for a living, and it is incredibly hard to put into practice. So unless this is something that you are really, really good at, this is a hard thing to do, to just be you all the time, anytime, no matter who you are with. It can be really a tricky tightrope to walk. It would be the way that I would kind of give it as a metaphor. The other risk, though, is that if you're hiding your true self, if you're not allowing your true self to be seen, you are at risk of unhappiness. You're at risk of sadness. You are at risk of allowing your fears that are holding you back to rule your life. Not to mention the work that it requires to hide who your true self is a lot of energy, and it takes a lot. So if you have to shift yourself or parts of yourself from one friend group or one family group or whatever it might be, it takes a lot of energy. Just allow yourself to be seen and do it in small steps so it feels a little bit less intimidating or less uncomfortable. Ways to live authentically and to be genuine in your life. One of the ways to do so is to follow your instincts. You know you better than anybody else. Follow your gut. Your gut is going to tell you the right things to do or the ways to act in certain situations. So follow your instinct. Knowing your values and your boundaries are going to help you to live an authentic life. If you're not living with boundaries or following your values, it's going to be really, really hard for you to live authentically. Exercising compassion for yourself and for others will also help you to be authentic. Because if you can be kind to yourself and kind to other people, especially for ourselves, it is really easy to say, okay, this was hard for me. I can understand why this is going to be hard for other people. You're really living in a space of authenticity when you can do that. Knowing what your likes, your dislikes are, knowing what your opinion is on things, these are items, if you think you don't know who your authentic self is, these are things that are going to help you figure that out. You probably know more about who your authentic self is than you think you do. If you start to get curious about these things, that's going to help as well. Just remember, authenticity is a practice. If you have been a people pleaser, if you have been living inauthentically for whatever reason, this is a practice. Just start small. Start with little areas of your life where you can be vulnerable in trusted, safe spaces where you can start to kind of test the waters and start to feel comfortable with it and work your way up. That's probably the easiest thing that I can tell you to do. Easy is a relative term, but just start small. And of course, if you feel like you can't do this on your own, therapist is a great place for you to explore some of these items, to try to understand a little bit more about yourself if you feel like this is not something that you can do on your own. So hopefully this is helpful. It's a topic that has got a lot of layers to it, but hopefully this is something that helped to explain it a little bit further, give you a little bit of better understanding about what it means and how to live an authentic life and to be the best version of yourself. So, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Have a good one.